So today I want to talk about how oftentimes I would say that speed and trying to break things quickly is almost always better than taking a lot more time and getting it right first. The best example is what happened to me this week at a client. So when we get a new client, usually what we need to do is we create like business process flowcharts for them. So we head in and we kind of have an understanding of their business based on like some of their answers on certain questions that we ask, and obviously like the sales team also has like a brief understanding of like how they're doing things currently in certain process areas. We kind of come in and we need to design these flowcharts, and the goal of our discussion in our discovery sessions is to go through these process flowcharts that we create and then update them based on what is actually happening now and what it will look like in the future when we do implement NetSuite, which is like the ERP software that we're installing at the client. And usually what I try to do, and I think it's again like I'm more of a perfectionist. I don't like giving something that is of subpar quality. So last week we had, I don't know, let's say 20 to 30 flowcharts that we were supposed to have in total. I ended up with maybe, let's say, 15 of them instead of like 30. And that's because I spent a lot of time trying to perfect each individual flowchart that we had to make. And it just took me a lot of time because like I really wanted to spend, like I would like go almost on ChatGPT, try to understand like what a normal business process would look like for these kinds of businesses that we're working with. And then go through past projects that are similar and kind of like piece all the things together and try to get like all of the boxes correctly. And look, like even last week, I wouldn't say it went terrible, it went pretty well. We still had the flowcharts, but the one thing that I realized right away is that no matter how much time you spend on these flowcharts, you're inevitably going to get things wrong. Obviously, you cannot get things 100% right at first because you don't entirely know their business process, and like it's very hard for you to design a business process based on just questions and some other people's like knowledge from the sales team. Like it's almost impossible to get it right. I would say not almost, but it's impossible to get it right, and you will for sure get things wrong. And that's really the goal of the discovery sessions, is to know where you got things wrong and then update it for what you want in the future. Which brings me to this week. We had follow-up sessions, and we continued our discovery sessions in other process areas, and I had to design again 2 new flowcharts for this discovery session. And usually I would spend so much time thinking about this process, but I had so much other things to do to prepare for this discovery session, and also like just other stuff that's ongoing on this project, that I just didn't have time to actually sit down and think about getting this process chart right. So what I did was just do it pretty quickly. So like I went on ChatGPT, which is usually what I do, and then I would just spit out like some sort of flowchart, and instead of trying to further this flowchart and spend a lot of time on it, I kind of designed something that was really brief, but overall was aligned with what I saw and what I thought was the business process for this client. And when I presented it right away, they said it was wrong, but the discovery session was probably my best discovery session in the past 2 weeks. And I think why is because instead of focusing of getting, let's say, one flowchart really well and the other one I didn't have time to do it, I just made sure that I had at least the 2 flowcharts so that we can start discussing it. And both flowcharts were like almost completely wrong. But at the end, what it allowed me to do in a discovery session is just permit the client to just say, actually, what you have here is wrong. This is how it should be. And again, like they don't care if you get it wrong. Like they just want to make sure that we get it right. And I think especially in a discovery session, what is important, like I would say almost that it's better to have a wrong flowchart so that we can have the discussion than, like forcing all your time to try and get it right. It's kind of like when you tweet something, the better engagement is usually when you tweet something really wrong, and then people will want to comment on your tweet and say like, actually you're wrong, like this is the right thing to do. So if you want to have a lot of engagement, when you tweet something, instead of saying like, oh, I think it's this, instead what you should be doing is say, actually, this is what I think, and it's wrong because, and you tweet it knowing that it's wrong, and you know that you're gonna get a lot of engagement. And I think similarly, almost that in these flowcharts, it's almost better to have it wrong so that you can get that engagement as well. And obviously, like, I'm not saying that you should purposely do it wrong, especially for flowcharts. Obviously, it's work, it's more important. But I think that what I internalized or I learned from these past 2 weeks is that like there has to be some sort of rule I need to follow, and it's probably like the 80-20 rule here, where I should spend a lot more time getting something on paper versus trying to get like half of it right. It's a lot better to get, let's say, 50% right for 30 of these flowcharts and have better discussions because we're able to like just throw something, on like the Zoom call and people can follow through that versus like having 50% of the flowcharts and then the other ones we're kind of like talking just in general about this flowchart, but you don't have any visual. So that's what I learned, and hopefully, you learned something as well. So that's it. Peace.